While caring for her mother-in-law in a coma, I discovered a shocking truth. Call the police now. Emily sat in the cold, sterile hospital room, the beeping machines a constant reminder of her mother-in-law's fragile state. Doris lay pale and still, oblivious to the chaos enveloping her family. The accident had been brutal, leaving her fighting for life. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on Emily's chest, blurring the lines between her professional duties and personal turmoil. She was a nurse trained to handle emergencies, yet this was the first time she felt powerless in the face of something so irrevocable. As she gripped Doris's hand, memories flooded her mind. Family dinners, laughter over cups of coffee, Doris's warm embrace. The family's expectations laid heavy on her shoulders, like dark clouds threatening an imminent storm. With 2 kids of her own and a demanding job at the clinic, Emily often felt like a juggler in a circus act, balancing her responsibilities while desperately trying to maintain her sanity. But now, as she stared at the woman who had, in many ways, welcomed her into the family, the reality of the situation became suffocating. At the dawn of dawn's first light, Emily arrived home, her heart still racing from the events at the hospital, and found herself drawn to the attic, where years of memories lay in boxes. While sorting through the clutter, she discovered a dusty box tucked in the corner. Curiosity piqued, she opened it, and immediately a sense of dread washed over her. Letters, yellowed with time, encapsulated betrayals and secrets woven into the fabric of her husband Tyler's family. Her hands trembled as she read of embezzlement and a deceitful business partner who had siphoned off their family wealth. Each revelation staggered her, forcing her to question everything she thought she knew about loyalty and trust. Caught between protecting her husband from a truth that could shatter their family and the duty to uncover the injustice, Emily felt like a puppet tangled in strings of conflicting emotions. The prospect of justice clawed at her insides, while the fear of what it might mean for her children made her stomach twist. She needed guidance, a safe harbor amid the turbulence. Before she could gather her thoughts, she reached out to Carol, her former mentor, who had always seen the shadows nestled within family dynamics. Carol offered a compassionate ear and encouraged Emily to explore this newfound truth while preparing for possible repercussions. Yet as she soaked in Carol's wisdom, the tension simmered beneath the surface. Each visit to the hospital left her stranded between hope and despair, each moment spent away from her children nested in guilt. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But moments later, the urgency of her situation washed over her again. Emily confronted the business partner as anger rose within her, but in the midst of the confrontation, an unexpected revelation turned her world upside down. The deeper betrayal implicated not just Doris, but cast a long shadow over what she thought was a solid family life. As she sat in the dark of her living room, her heartbeat resonated in the silence, thoughts spiraling into chaos. Should she defend her family's name, risking everything, or shield her husband from unbearable truths? The kids slept upstairs, innocent and unaware of the tempest brewing below. Only a whisper of her struggle escaped her lips. What's the right thing to do? Am I strong enough to confront this? Just then, the phone rang, cutting through her thoughts. A voice on the other end, steady and ominous, delivered a chilling command. You need to call the police now. The phone's insistent ring echoed in Emily's mind, the voice resonating like an alarm bell, shattering the precarious calm that surrounded her. Thoughts raced as she pondered her next move. Who was this person? What did they know? The need for action surged within her, both frightening and exhilarating. She frowned, debating if this was merely a bluff or a legitimate threat to be taken seriously. With trembling fingers, she set the phone back on its cradle. The call was one thing. Deciding to act was a different beast entirely. Would reporting her suspicions to the police entangle her further into this web of deception within her family? She closed her eyes, allowing the weight of her choices to crash around her like the waves of a stormy sea. Guilt and fear tussled with the longing for justice, pushing her to the brink. In that defining moment, she remembered Carol's advice, that the truth has the power to unravel injustices, but also to ruin lives. Taking a deep breath, Emily decided she needed more than emotional support. She needed facts. Gathering her resolve, she returned to the attic. This time, the dusty old letters demanded her staunch attention. They could hold the key to understanding Doris's secret history. As she flipped through the letters once more, connection points began to surface, illuminating a timeline of betrayal that made her skin crawl. It was not merely financial ruin at stake, but a tapestry of relationships intertwined with lies. She noted names and dates, trying to grasp a coherent story from the fragments left behind. Each revelation darkened her perception of what family loyalty could really mean. But the truth also illuminated her path forward. The phone call remained an ominous shadow overhead, and as the night advanced, she felt an urgency deepening within her. The contents of those letters began to resemble a grotesque puzzle, each piece more disturbing than the last. She couldn't simply ignore what she had discovered. Remaining silent felt like an act of betrayal in itself. Halfway through the night, fueled by coffee and adrenaline, Emily decided to dig deeper. She needed to confirm the extent of the deceit with tangible proof before taking the next step. Armed with the letters and accompanied by her resurgent determination, she planned a visit to the local records office the next day. This would be more than a quest for truth. It would be a confrontation of her family's legacy and a critical examination of her own moral compass. The decision felt empowering in its own right, the prospect of taking control, tightening her grip on the situation. Yet, something gnawed at her, a sense of impending action, the feeling that she was heading into a confrontation without knowing its true nature or outcomes. As she settled down to get a few hours of sleep, Emily realized that confronting the past often meant cracking open a door that may never close again. The stakes were higher than she could have anticipated, and with her children resting upstairs, she understood that even the smallest decisions could reverberate through their lives. The dawning of morning brought clarity, and the thrill of discovery mingled with trepidation. She knew the day ahead would test the fabric of her resolve. The time had come to face the tangled narratives of the women before her, Doris, herself, and how they would alter the future of their family. It was as she prepared to leave that realization struck her. Confronting history meant confronting more than just her mother-in-law's secrets. She would need to face her husband, Tyler, whose unawareness of the truths she unearthed created a chasm between them that could either unite or destroy. Stepping into the day, invigorated but anxious, Emily whispered a promise to herself. She would not retreat. The time was here to uncover the truth that would illuminate the shadows lurking within her family, and possibly destroy them in the process. As she exited her home, her resolve solidified like iron. The unshakable knowledge dawned upon her that not all truths were meant to be spoken, yet some demanded to be heard. And with that realization came an undeniable challenge. How far was she willing to go for the truth? A single thought punctuated her mind like a drumbeat. It was time to call the police. The air was crisp and tasted of uncertainty as Emily navigated the streets leading to the local records office. Her thoughts collided like thunderclouds, each rumination layering on another. Fear of what she might discover, dread of Tyler's reaction, hope for clarity. She gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white with resolve, wrestling with the impulsive urge to turn back. There was no turning back. Not now. As she parked, the facade of the records office loomed before her, a kaleidoscope of brick and glass reflecting the morning sun as if it were mocking her. She stepped inside, heart racing with every pulse. The musty scent of old documents filled her lungs, mingling with the distinct electronic hum of fluorescent lights overhead. A clerk's indifferent gaze met hers as she approached the counter. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice flat. "I need some records." "On property ownership?" she stammered, suppressing the swell of anxiety and pushing her emotions deeper where they'd remain unexamined for the moment. As the clerk turned to retrieve the information, Emily's eyes darted around, fixating on the photographs of solemn-faced officials gracing the walls, quiet witnesses to the histories and stories she sought to uncover. Every minute spent waiting grew heavier, pushing the weight of potential revelations into her mind. As the clerk slid a stack of papers across the counter, she felt a tremor of anticipation. This might be the evidence that could shatter the illusions her family had built. An urgent need to piece together the shattered fragments of her family's past propelled her to open the files right there, right then. The first document rocked her foundation. A list of properties once owned by Doris, tied to a name she didn't recognize. The inked lines illuminated the betrayal that stemmed beyond mere financial troubles, linking back decades to events Emily had only ever brushed past. Each name was a key, unlocking doors she'd never considered existed, connections that could rewrite their family history. She scanned hastily, connecting dots frantically, her breath hitching as she deciphered more complexities than she'd anticipated. In that moment, her resolve solidified. Emily was no passive player in this family drama. She was becoming its driving force. For too long had she stood on the sidelines, allowing the whispers of deceit to weave themselves into her existence. Each revelation coaxed her deeper into her own moral reckoning. What would it mean to confront Tyler with this new reality? Would this discovery shatter their lives, or was it the catalyst for a rebirth? After leaving the office, she felt a transformation within her, an awakening stoked by adrenaline and clarity. The drive home felt different, infused with a newfound urgency. The day's revelations morphed into motivation, urging her to face Tyler not as a mere wife, but as a harbinger of truth. It was tilting toward a confrontation she hadn't prepared for, yet one she could no longer avoid. With each passing moment, she contemplated how to broach the subject. "Tyler, there's something you need to know," echoed through her thoughts, a phrase that felt both monumental and evolutionary. As her house came into view, the myriad possibilities of this confrontation twisted in her stomach. What truths would she reveal? Would she stand firm in her findings, or falter under the weight of familial loyalty? The notion of honesty was growing into a moral maze that threatened to engulf her entire world. Emily took a deep breath, planting both feet firmly on solid ground. She stepped through the door, ready to uncover not just familial secrets, but also the truths about herself, how she fit into this chaotic tapestry woven through generations. But as she entered the living room, the scene before her froze her breath. Tyler was on the phone, his brow furrowed, the tone of his conversation sending chills racing up her spine. The words flowed into her consciousness like a torrent. "I need to speak with you about Doris and the police." What had he uncovered? And how was she to respond to the revelations poised to cascade upon their lives? The time for confrontation was at hand, and with it emerged the ever-looming question. Could she stand firm in the face of truth, even if it meant dismantling everything she knew? Emily stood at the threshold, frozen in time, her mind racing with the implications of Tyler's words. The police. The mention sent a shiver down her spine. What had he uncovered? Did it tie back to the documents she had just reviewed? Did he know about Doris, the properties, the deception that seemed to stain their entire family lineage? Her resolve teetered perilously at the edge of an unfathomable abyss. "Tyler," she ventured, her voice barely above a whisper, uncertain if she wanted to interrupt him or if preparing for an embrace. He turned, surprise flickering in his eyes, but it quickly morphed into something deeper, a mixture of apprehension and urgency. "I found some records today," she followed, steeling herself for whatever fallout might ensue. "About your mother. About Doris." The words hung in the air, thickening the tension that sparked like electricity between them. "What do you mean?" His brow furrowed further, tension coiling up in him, mirroring the tightness in her chest. "There's more to her past than we thought. Property ownership, names we don't recognize. There's a history here that I didn't expect." Each sentence was a calculated step into unknown territory, a balance between revealing what she knew while bracing for his reaction. Tyler's expression shifted as he processed her words. "What are you getting at, Emily?" His voice was taut, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I don't have time for mysteries right now." The anger in his tone ignited a protective response within her. They were facing a crisis, and clarity needed to prevail. "We can't afford to breeze past this. Right now, a connection to the police could be far more important than we realize. What they need to know might save us, save her." "Are you saying Doris is involved in something illegal?" he demanded, the skepticism etched into his features. "I don't know." Her voice had risen, the pressure surged as uncertainty mounted. "But I found evidence, names linked to a network that could point to deeper issues, Tyler. We can't just ignore it." Emily's pulse quickened as she met his gaze. She could feel the weight of their shared history, the moments that had built their lives together in a delicate balance. But now that balance felt precarious, threatening to topple with each word they exchanged. "We should investigate," she asserted, emboldened by the gravity. "We need to be proactive. If there are police involved, we can't remain passive. We owe it to Doris and ourselves." "Investigate?" Tyler's disbelief almost stung. "What if it implicates her further? What if it tears our family apart?" The fear in his eyes mirrored her own. "Or what if it's the only thing that can save us?" she countered, her voice steadying with conviction. "Haven't you felt that something has been off? This isn't just about Doris anymore. It's about us. It's about what we stand to lose." As the room crackled with tension, a myriad of thoughts churned in Emily's mind. This was no longer just a personal journey. It was a cascade of revelations that threatened to redefine everything they had built together. Each choice seemed to spin in a vortex, and right now, discovering the truth felt imperative. "How can I trust the truth?" Tyler's voice softened, almost vulnerable. "When everything I thought I knew could unravel in an instant?" "Because it's our truth." Emily stepped closer. "We can't navigate this without confronting it head-on. It's time to reclaim our story." For a moment they stood in silence, enveloped in the enormity of what lay ahead. Emily felt an awakening within her, a fire burning not just for honesty, but for the reclamation of their narrative. She was no longer merely part of a family drama. She was ready to evolve into the heroine of their story. "Okay," Tyler relented, though uncertainty still shadowed his eyes. "What's our next move?" Fearful yet resolute, Emily met that question with clarity. "We need to gather more information, reach out to whoever knows about Doris's past, and be ready to face what it means, because I fear the truth is darker than we can imagine." As they began to strategize their next steps, Emily felt a surge of adrenaline, a resolve to confront the past, a commitment to unveil all hidden layers. But as the implications spiraled, she couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that this was only the beginning. What awaited them would test not just their relationship, but the very foundations of their lives. And as they tightened their plan, one lingering question echoed persistently. Were they prepared for the darkness that might lie ahead, and would it shatter their bond or forge it anew? The answer felt just beyond reach, shrouded in uncertainty, as they braced for the revelations that awaited them. Emily's thoughts raced as she and Tyler began mapping out their investigation. The gravity of their situation loomed heavily, suffocating, yet galvanizing. She had always viewed herself as a support system rather than a leader, but now she felt the pulsing urgency to take charge, to uncover their family's concealed truths. But with each step considered, the fear of what lay ahead gnawed at her resilience. Okay, where do we start? Tyler's reluctance hadn't abandoned him. It was etched into the lines on his forehead, a furrow of worry that mirrored her own uncertainty. Let's begin with those names I found in the records, Emily suggested, her voice steadier than she felt. I'll cross-reference them with local archives, find any connections around here. You should speak to your contacts at the precinct. They might have more insights about Doris's former associates. Tyler nodded reluctantly, but remained guarded. Each new stride they took felt monumental, yet she could feel the walls closing in, the shadows of potential repercussions hovering ominously. The decision to dig deeper might very well open Pandora's box. She sensed Tyler's discomfort and questioned whether their bond, now frail and strung tight with doubt, could withstand the discoveries they might unearth. As they dispersed in opposite directions, her heart raced, propelled by a mix of adrenaline and apprehension. It was as if she was stepping into an abyss, aware that clarity existed only at the edge. Alone in her office, surrounded by old family photos and comforting memorabilia, Emily began her search. The tactile touch of paper against her fingers filled her with a confidence she hadn't realized she possessed. Each name she uncovered added a layer to her understanding. As the afternoon light waned, she felt herself transitioning from an unsure participant to a tenacious investigator. With every discovery, her resolve solidified. This was her family, her story on the line. She couldn't back down now. But the further she delved, the darker the shadow that loomed over them. Public records from decades past revealed a tapestry of connections. Some benign, some far more sinister. Properties linked to people with criminal histories. Each click of her keyboard was a revelation, but also a burden, demanding a cautious approach. Her phone rang, jolting her from her work. Tyler's voice crackled over the line, tight with tension. Emily, I think I found something. You need to hear this. What is it? The urgency in his tone sent ripples of anxiety through her. It's a name you mentioned earlier, connected to Doris. I can't believe it. She had dealings with someone involved in a major case from last year. It's all documented. A wave of nausea washed over her, but she steadied herself. What kind of dealings? Money transfers, some kind of business partnership. It looks suspicious, Emily, and there's a chance. He hesitated, the weight of what he was about to say palpable in the air. There's a chance Doris could be in serious trouble. Emily's mind surged back to Tyler's earlier fears. The thought of their family unraveling struck a chord deep within her. We need to tread carefully. We can't jump to conclusions, but this could be catastrophic. The reality of their situation dawned on her. They were at a crossroads, a choice between pursuing the truth and tiptoeing around a nightmare. It was time for decisive action, a leap of courage amid unknowing. Let's meet, she replied with newfound determination. I'll gather what I found. Maybe together we can map this out and decide how to approach it. She hung up, her heart racing. This wasn't merely about uncovering secrets anymore. It was about facing the consequences of every choice they'd make moving forward. The notion of calling the police loomed over her as an impending storm, threatening to sweep away everything she and Tyler held dear, perhaps even leaving irreversible damage in its wake. But deep down, Emily felt this was where her true personal development lay, grappling with moral dilemmas, choosing transparency over self-preservation. Their journey through darkness could either expose them to further peril or emerge as an opportunity to reclaim their narrative. As she prepared to leave, an unsettling thought crossed her mind. If Doris was in trouble, it might not just be a family affair anymore. What if calling the police was not only inevitable, but dangerously necessary? With clenched fists and a steely gaze, Emily ventured into the unknown, fueled by a painful truth. Someone was counting on her, and time was running out. What awaited them at their meeting, and could they muster the strength to confront the full reality of Doris's past? All they had was each other, a ticking clock, and the looming shadows of the past. The dim office felt like a cockpit, a command center where Emily was preparing for an aerial reconnaissance into the unknown. With a stack of documents laid out before her, the once comforting fabric of family history now felt heavy with secrets. The brief conversation with Tyler echoed in her mind, a grim reminder that every decision they made could not only affect their family, but reverberate into their lives in a way they couldn't yet fathom. She steeled herself, recognizing that she was no longer the passive observer of her family's story. She was at the helm, grappling with a weight of authority she had never fully embraced. The hours spent researching had shifted something within her. Unearthed names began to form a web around her, intriguing snippets of lives intertwined, all leading back to Doris. Emily flipped through the pages again, pausing at a particularly unsettling entry. The details of a real estate transaction tied to a numbered account raised questions that sent her heart racing. Who was the true owner? Why had Doris been involved? And just how deep could the rabbit hole go? Moving with newfound urgency, she opened her laptop once more, scanning through public records and newspaper archives. She began to formulate a strategy. She was blending her skills as a researcher into something more profound. An investigator, unraveling not just her family's past, but possibly exposing criminal threads that linked to dangerous people. Each new finding accompanied a spike of adrenaline, but also an ever-increasing sense of dread. The noise of the printer pulling paper from its tray startled her. These weren't just documents, they were assets of her family's history, threads in a tapestry that, if pulled, could unravel everything. Her palms were clammy, a physical manifestation of the internal struggle she faced. Here she was, inching closer to the core of a dilemma that could endanger not only Doris, but also herself and Tyler. She wondered if the fears consuming him had merit. Was she diving into a treacherous sea without adequate life support? The moral implications weighed heavier by the minute. On one hand, she would be protecting her family, but on the other, exposing them to potential ruin. What if Doris's indiscretions led to significant consequences? Would she still believe she was acting for the greater good? The clock ticked brutally in the background, a relentless reminder of time slipping away. Emily took a steadying breath and closed her eyes, visualizing their meeting. She conjured Tyler's face, remembering the faint lines of worry etched into his features. This has to be handled delicately, she thought, but a fierce counter-argument whispered in her mind, urging her to expose the truth irrespective of the potential fallout. Could she risk remaining silent if hiding the truth put others in jeopardy? The pressure of the moral choice grew heavier. As the meeting time approached, Emily gathered her materials. Each document would likely spark discussion, debate, and perhaps conflict. The confrontation itself was looming, not just with Tyler, but with the broader implications of Doris's past. What would Tyler say when confronted with daunting evidence that painted a troubling picture of the woman they thought they knew? With sharp clarity, Emily realized, this wasn't merely a family issue, it was a reckoning. They stood on the brink, clinging to a thread of unity that could snap or weave them closer together. Would they hold strong amidst revelations that could fracture everything they had built? As she stepped out of her office, her resolve solidified. Determination, tinged with fear, propelled her forward. This was the moment she would find the courage to bear their truths, but the outcome remained unpredictable. No longer just running towards the truth, Emily was now ready to confront it head-on. Whatever awaited her in that meeting could potentially reshape their lives irreversibly. As she made her way toward Tyler, one thought pulsed in her mind, a dark tide rushing closer. Were they genuinely prepared to face the full weight of what they might uncover, and could their bond withstand the storm it threatened to unleash? As Emily walked toward the living room where Tyler awaited her, every step felt like a journey through quicksand, an unsettling mixture of anticipation and trepidation anchoring her to the moment. She balanced the stack of documents, knowing each one could tip the scales of their lives into chaos or clarity. Tyler sat with his back to her, staring out the window, the evening sun casting a warm glow across his face. The sight of him ignited a fissure of anxiety in her. He looked so peaceful, oblivious to the storm brewing within her. Would he still be serene once he learned the truth? The thought almost paralyzed her, but she pressed forward, determined not to shrink away this time. "Tyler," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He turned, and the concern etched across his forehead told her he sensed the gravity of the situation. "Did you find something?" he asked, his tone balancing somewhere between curiosity and apprehension. She held his gaze, swallowing the lump forming in her throat. This was her moment, not just to reveal the findings about Doris, but to redefine who she was in his eyes. No longer merely his wife, but a formidable partner ready for the truth. "Yeah, she faltered, shifting her documents. "I found some things that I think we need to discuss." As she spoke, she laid the documents before him. Indexing them by importance, she hesitated on the revelation that had unsettled her the most. The records of those real estate transactions, the names associated with the shady dealings. "Doris has a connection to some questionable transactions," she pressed, her heart racing. "It links back to an account that isn't in her name, and—" "Emily," he interrupted softly, disbelief flickering across his face. "Are you sure about this? It sounds, I don't know, a bit far-fetched." Frustration bubbled within her. He still viewed her as the safe harbor in his storm, the one who would cushion their family from any waves. But this was not just about keeping them afloat. It was about recognizing the ship was sinking. "Tyler, I know it's difficult to believe, but these documents don't lie. We're not just talking about a whimsical investment. There are serious implications here." The atmosphere twisted, each word intensifying the tension. He studied her, searching for something. Understanding, maybe, or perhaps reassurance that the truth could be twisted in their favor. "Why didn't we know about this before?" he asked, his voice steadying, but heavy with frustration. "Why didn't Doris tell us?" "That's what we need to uncover," Emily replied, urgency creeping into her voice. "We have to ask ourselves, what was she hiding, and why now are we only finding out?" Tyler leaned back, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the world rested upon his shoulders. Each moment stretched into infinity, thick with unfolding dread. Was he truly processing the severity of these findings, or was he playing the role of the protector, the denial strong within him? "Maybe we shouldn't rush into this," he suggested carefully, a defensiveness surfacing in his tone. "What if we're looking for problems that aren't there?" Panic swelled inside her. "Tyler, this isn't just a hunch. These documents are evidence, and if we ignore them, we may be complicit in whatever Doris has entangled herself in. We cannot operate from a place of fear. We owe it to ourselves and to her to understand the full picture." A silence followed, thick with tension. Emily realized she had pushed against the walls Tyler had built, his protective instincts clashing with her relentless pursuit for truth. She was no longer willing to back down and play her previous role, infantilized by doubt. As the conversation progressed, each statement erupted like a spark igniting dry leaves, threatening to engulf them in rising flames. Tyler's demeanor shifted from curiosity to disbelief, his eyes narrowing as he processed the implications. Emily felt the pulse of determination rhythmically hammering in her head, a visceral reminder that this was no longer merely about familial loyalty. It was about strength, resilience, and conviction. "Are we really prepared to expose this?" Tyler questioned, a new edge to his voice. "Exposing it might be the only way to protect ourselves," she shot back, adrenaline coursing through her. In that heated exchange, a different truth emerged. Tyler's resistance wasn't just disbelief. It was fear. Fear of what they might uncover, and fear of what it could cost them. The realization resonated deep within her. Could she truly breach the stronghold of silence that wrapped around Doris without tearing her family apart? Maybe we need to confront her directly, Emily proposed, a boldness igniting in her gut. We schedule a meeting, bring it all into the open. It's time our family faced this head-on. Tyler hesitated, the conflict palpable in his eyes. But as he glared at the documents, Emily recognized something shifting within him. A flicker of acceptance battling his instinct to shield. The decision loomed before them like a colossal wave, the crest curling dangerously as it prepared to crash. Determined, they steeled themselves for the consequences of their revelation. With the unresolved tension crackling in the air, they both understood one thing. The choice they were about to make would reshape their lives completely. Yet, as they faced each other, a horrifying question lingered just beneath the surface. If confronting Doris propels them into the heart of darkness, what horrors might they unearth beyond family secrets? Emily paced the small living room, her mind racing as she processed Tyler's mixed signals. Moments ago, he had been engulfed in denial, but now an inkling of acceptance flickered in his eyes. She felt a pulse of urgency, a tremor of adrenaline propelling her toward resolve. They were standing on a precipice. A decision was imminent, and she could either fall or soar. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice steady yet soft, hoping to bind him in their mutual intent. She could sense the impending confrontation with Doris was not merely about unearthing hidden truths. It would unearth fragments of their fractured family that he desperately wished to shield. "I don't know," Tyler confessed, running his hand through his hair, a gesture of vulnerability she rarely saw. "What if we can't handle the fallout?" Her heart ached at his question. For much of their marriage, she had been the one to caution, the stabilizer in their lives, but now she was a catalyst, challenging him to confront his deepest fears. "We've handled so much already, Tyler," she countered resolutely. "If Doris is involved in something dangerous, we can't stand by and pretend everything is okay." Glimmers of anger intertwined with his fear, lighting the fire of determination in her. They needed a plan, a strategy to address the hidden web of secrets without losing themselves in the chaos. Every moment spent in indecision felt like a choice to remain captive to fear, and Emily wasn't willing to be trapped anymore. "Let's write down questions," she suggested, a spark igniting within her as ideas proliferated. What do we want to know? What might there be to lose, and what could we gain? Tyler nodded slowly, the gears in his mind clearly shifting. "Okay, so we can make a list. That will help us stay focused." As her pen glided across the paper, each inquiry felt like a declaration of their intent. It was as though clarity was emerging from the fog. What was Doris's involvement with the real estate deals? Who are those names in the documents? What happens if she denies it all? Tyler's responses hung in the air, echoing her own swirling thoughts. What if we're wrong? What if it leads to a confrontation that destroys our family? "Then we rebuild it," Emily asserted, each word resonating with newfound strength. "This isn't about blame. It's about survival." The tension shifted within them, fermenting into a potent mixture of anxiety and empowerment. Each question they penned had become a lifeline, drawing them further away from complacency and toward action. Emily realized that within her lay an untapped resource, her ability to formulate a strategy, a gift she had overlooked in the wake of uncertainty. As they reviewed their burgeoning list, Emily felt a spark of insight wash over her. Confrontation was, indeed, daunting, but it was also a pathway to liberation. What if this process unearthed deeper truths, hidden strengths that had lain dormant? Would Tyler finally acknowledge her capabilities beyond the domestic sphere? Would they both emerge unscathed? "Okay, let's set a time to confront Doris," Tyler suggested, a firmer tone to his voice now. "We can do it this weekend. I'll reach out to her." "Together," Emily said, affirming their unity. "We'll do it together." Before they wrapped up the evening, Emily glanced at the clock. Time felt both stagnant and fleet, compressing their decisions into an idealistic weekend window. She felt a tumult of excitement and fear as they prepared to breach their silence with Doris. This was a defining moment, both personally and professionally. She could no longer be sidelined in her own narrative. As they folded the list, a sudden urgency knotted in her stomach. Tyler? What if she turns hostile? What if she stirs up conflict? Tyler paused, facing her with unwavering resolve. Then we lean into it, together. We don't allow her to silence us. Her breath hitched at his words. Together they would dismantle the walls, but with peeling back each layer came the risk of unraveling the very fabric of their family. Yet beyond the fear lay a clarity that both frightened and thrilled her. The truth would unearth who they were meant to be, guiding Emily toward an identity formed not merely through motherhood or wifehood, but as a partner standing with Tyler on equal footing. Across the living room, she locked eyes with Tyler, each of them silently bracing for the storm. As the evening drew to a close, a question lingered in the air. If confronting Doris ignites an unexpected upheaval in their lives, how would they face what lay directly ahead? The weekend loomed ahead, heavy with the weight of anticipation and fear. Saturday arrived, and the sun crept into the living room, casting warm, golden hues that felt misleading in contrast to the tension building inside Emily. Tyler's silence was palpable, his anxiety settling like a storm cloud in the corner of the room. They hadn't spoken much since their planning session, each wrapped in their private thoughts, stewing in reflections of vulnerability. Emily found herself standing in the kitchen, a familiar space, yet transformed by the mental shift she had undergone. The smell of freshly brewed coffee was comforting, but she felt a jolt of adrenaline with every passing second. As she assembled breakfast, her hands moved mechanically while her mind raced through every possibility of what could happen when they faced Doris. Would they uncover answers? Or would the confrontation lead to chaos, shattering the delicate fragments of their lives? Are you ready? Tyler's voice broke the morning stillness, drawing her focus back to the moment. His brown eyes mirrored her apprehension, but there was a flicker of determination that hadn't been there before. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied, attempting to project assurance, though doubt lingered at the edge of her mind. After breakfast, the couple sat down to review their list of questions one final time. Each inquiry seemed to pulse with energy, pregnant with potential revelations. But the looming fear of conflict dragged them both down. Emily felt the need to confront not just Doris, but her own limits of bravery and truth. As they reviewed the questions, she attempted to gauge Tyler's mood, searching for the resolve she admired. Yet she was surprised to see the shadows of fear still clouding his face. Suddenly, it struck her. She couldn't merely be a passenger in this journey. She needed to steer the conversation, to take ownership. What if Tyler hesitated? What if he faltered when the moment required strength? Let's agree on one thing, she said, steadying her voice. If things get heated, we remember our goal is not just to confront, but to understand. We need to keep our focus. Tyler met her gaze, his expression shifting to one of admiration, a flicker of respect igniting within him. You're right. We can't let her derail us. We need to control this narrative. Silence enveloped them again as the clock ticked ominously toward their meeting with Doris. Each second felt like an eternity, yet within that fragile moment, something shifted in Emily. It was no longer just about Doris. It was about reclaiming space in their lives, her life. Suddenly, the magnitude of what lay ahead washed over her like a wave. An urge to mentally prepare herself for what she might face became a driving force. Could she be the voice that demanded respect, even when all odds felt against her? In the fading twilight of the afternoon, as they packed their things to visit Doris, a fleeting thought crossed her mind. Were they armed only with questions, or had they evolved past mere inquiry? She felt it, a solidified strength like never before. When they arrived at Doris's house, the air thickened as they walked up the pathway, each step echoing their purpose, a united front against the unknown. She reached for the doorbell, hesitated, then pressed it firmly. The brassy sound resonated through her, signaling a point of no return. As the door creaked open, Emily locked eyes with Doris. The older woman's expression was both guarded and curious, an air of undeniable power simmering beneath the surface. In that moment, Emily gripped her resolve tightly. No longer would she be the passive observer. "Doris," she began, her voice steady yet commanding, "we need to talk." The confrontation hovered on the precipice, the weight of truth palpable in the air. But deep within, Emily questioned everything she thought she had prepared for. Could they emerge as allies, or would they uncover layers of betrayal that threatened to fracture their family irreparably? The moment felt charged with significance. Emily had prepared for this day, yet the reality of standing before Doris tightened her chest. Would she remain anchored in her newfound purpose, or would the depth of Doris's secrets pull her under? As Emily gathered her thoughts, a tremor of uncertainty flickered within her. The real battle was about to begin, one that could redefine not just their relationship with Doris, but their sense of identity as well. Would facing Doris help them uncover buried truths or spawn a confrontation that could change everything? The revelation awaited them. Was Emily ready for what came next? Doris stared at Emily with a look that carved fear deep within her chest. The chaos that had been brewing beneath every Saturday brunch, every holiday gathering, every innocent laughter now materialized, evolving into a reality that threatened to fracture everything they held dear. Emily's heartbeat quickened, but she stood firm, a pillar amidst a storm that could obliterate her family. "We need to talk," Emily reiterated, unwavering. Tyler moved slightly closer, a tangible source of support, channeling his own fear into a collective resolve. "What's this about?" Doris's tone was clipped, her gaze sharp, cutting through Emily's confidence like a precision knife. Every inch of Emily's body screamed for composure. This moment could mark a turning point in their family narrative. "About the documents I found," Emily replied, determination infusing her voice. "What happened in the past isn't just foggy memories. It's documented evidence of how your choices have shaped us." Doris stiffened, her eyes darkening with each word. "What do you think you know?" "Enough to understand that your past isn't as clean as we all believed. I found records tying you to questionable real estate transactions and people who could do harm." Emily's voice held steady, but internally, a tempest of doubt gnawed at her, whispering of collapse. "Those are just papers. They don't represent anything real." Doris scoffed, an air of defiance radiating from her. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Actually, I do," Emily shot back, conviction pulling her together. Each word she spoke became a lifeline, drawing her closer to the truth. "And if you don't explain yourself, then the only option left is to take this to the authorities." "What?" Doris surmised, fury bubbling beneath her calm facade. "You think you know better than family? What would that accomplish?" "Doris, this isn't about blame," Tyler interjected, anger mingling with fear. "This is about uncovering the truth of our family to protect ourselves and you. If we don't confront this, it will consume all of us." A crack of vulnerability broke through Doris's defensiveness, but she quickly sought to reestablish her grip on the situation. "You do not understand the complexities," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's not as simple as you think. What I did was for the family." "For the family?" Emily echoed incredulously, a new wave of clarity washing over her. "You jeopardized our family's future in the name of loyalty to a past that put us at risk?" Suddenly, the walls around them pressed close, and tensions escalated, emotions twanging dangerously on the edges of calm. Emily felt a thrill surge through her. This was her moment of transformation. She had wrestled with her doubt and uncertainty, and now the realization struck. She never needed to blend into the background. She had the right to claim her voice fiercely and protect her loved ones with it. "You have to face what you've done, Doris," Emily continued, heart racing like a metronome, catalyzing a pivotal shift. This cycle of secrecy ends here. No more hiding, no more deceit. Doris blanched. The revelation hit her like a curtain pulled back from a sunless room. The confrontation had crossed the invisible line of familial loyalty into the critical domain of accountability. "I didn't think you would be this ruthless," she said, her composed facade cracking. "I thought you were a part of this family." "I am a part of this family," Emily replied, force feeding herself confidence. "And part of that is demanding honesty for my children's sake. I won't let our legacy be built on false pretenses." The air grew thick, heavy with the weight of revelations, shadows of guilt morphing into a palpable tension. Doris's face now revealed conflict strobed with regret. "I protected you," she murmured. "I thought you were too tender to handle the truth." Emily's breath hitched. This was her transformational moment, standing resolute against the disillusioned past, reflecting what it meant to forge her identity from the integrity-scorched materials handed down to her. Tenderness isn't weakness, and strength isn't born from silence. I am strong enough to endure the truth for us all. As the storm raged, Emily noticed a glimmer of something shift within Doris. Recognition. For the first time, the senior matriarch looked lost, not from her deceptive maneuvering, but from the loss of power over Emily's story. The past had indeed been a helper, but also a hinderer, its weight coming to bear directly on the family's collective consciousness. "I tried to protect you from the dark side of our family, and now you threaten to expose it," Doris said, vulnerability bleeding into her response. "I thought you would keep your head down and look away." "No longer," Emily asserted, voice taut yet filled with purpose. "We can learn from this. We can rise above it. You must be accountable for your past choices if we are to move forward." Tyler's supporting presence radiated an unyielding strength alongside Emily's newfound confidence. They were a united force, facing a formidable past together. Doris looked down, guilt washing over her as the truth cascaded around them, a truth laden with regret, but wrapped in the potential for growth. Each moment of raw honesty felt like a dam breaking, releasing decades of bottled-up emotions. "I'm so scared to confront it all," she finally admitted, voice quivering. "Scared of what the truth will unravel." "Then let's unravel it together," Emily responded, warmth seeping into her words. "Together, we can write a new chapter, not built on lies, but on transparency and strength." Doris met Emily's gaze, the flicker of acknowledgement forming a bridge they hadn't anticipated. A tentative nod broke the weight of the moment as Doris shuffled through the evidence of her choices, realizing the choice that lay before her: continued denial or the opportunity for redemption. And in that moment, Emily felt it. The stakes were no longer solely about uncovering the past. It was about setting the course for their family's future, one colored with strength derived from honesty. Empowered by clarity, Emily had seemingly reclaimed her identity, stepping into her role not just as a nurturer, but an unwavering advocate of truth. The fear that had burdened her lifted, replaced by cautious optimism. "We can do better," Tyler spoke, now animated. "We owe it to ourselves and to each other to embrace this change." As their voices intertwined, the remnants of dread receded, replaced by a fortified bond amongst them. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but having faced the darkness, they were now equipped with the courage to reshape their family narrative. And as Emily exhaled deeply, clarity enveloped her soul, a true liberation born from confronting the unknown. Now she understood that with the powerful force of truth behind her, nothing could stand in their way. True transformation had taken root, giving fiery birth to new beginnings devoid of shadows. Emily had sharpened her voice and asserted her position, redefining her role within her family, not just as a caregiver, but as the protector of their shared legacy. This moment was pivotal. She was not merely a mother or a wife, but a formidable presence forging ahead. And in that certainty, satisfaction swelled within her. She was exactly where she was meant to be. As they collectively parsed through the remnants of Doris's past, Emily welcomed the challenge ahead, fully aware that forging a better future would demand courage, truth, and undeniably love. But as the sun set, casting its beautiful glow, an unrelenting thought emerged. True strength lay not merely in enduring the tumultuous waves of family secrets, but in choosing to dismantle them, one truth at a time. Emily stood resolute, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, armed with the most powerful weapon of all, the truth, her unequivocal declaration in forging a lasting legacy. Before the camera faded to black, a voice echoed in the silence. Share this journey of truth and transformation with those who need to hear it. You need to subscribe now to our channel. Don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this life-altering conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful resolution.